Welcome back. We are on the third part of our series of the Waterfalls in Minnesota. Where are we headed to? We're going to Ramsey Falls today. Ramsey Falls. And that is a bit west from where we previously were on our journey from south to north. Hey, Ed the Alligator. Look, it's Ed the Alligator. Where are we going today, Ed the Alligator? We're going to Ramsey Falls. Hey, look, we're at Ramsey Falls. Ramsey Falls is located near the city of Redwood Falls. These falls are actually fairly close to one another, but we did not visit the other falls, as I did not know the other falls even existed at the time when we started picking out which falls we would look at. There are too many of them to cover, literally, in a documentary form, unless one wanted to spend the majority of their lifetime looking and recording and narrating and creating and editing, etc., 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 all the work that goes behind these types of things. So we just showed you a few of them, but there's a lot more in the state. This one, though, is Ramsey Falls. And like I said, Ramsey Falls is located in the city or near the city of Redwood Falls. Just slightly west of where we had been before, actually a little bit further west than just slightly. And it is our third waterfall location as we're traveling from south to north, checking out all these wonderful waterfalls along the way. Alexander Ramsey Park was founded as a state park in 1911. Alexander Ramsey himself had 43 siblings. I'm just kidding, no he didn't. I don't know how many siblings he had. I can tell you all sorts of things, but I will not lie about this waterfall. That's a guarantee. Ramsey Falls is a 30-foot waterfall in Ramsey Park in Redwood Falls, Minnesota. The city of Redwood Falls, Minnesota. The Ramsey Falls section is one of the park's most well-known features. And again, Alexander Ramsey Park was founded as a state park in 1911, although I do not know how many brothers and sisters, if any, Alex, as we like to call him for those of us who know him well, had. Not sure how many brothers and sisters Alex had. The falls are located more or less in the center of Ramsey Park, in Redwood Falls. Redwood Falls is located in Redwood County, Minnesota. Some of the interesting features of this waterfall would be that it can look as one large separate waterfall or two smaller individual falls, depending on how much water is flowing over at any given point in time. Within the Ramsey Park, there's a lot of trails in there. There's multiple trails, and there's also one that crosses the suspension bridge in the park. There is a parking lot that's actually very close to the falls in case anybody chooses to go visit them themselves, although you don't have to if you don't want to, because you can see them here with us. There is an overlook to be able to get access to viewing the falls throughout the year that is open all year round. Bit of side facts about the park. Ramsey Park is the largest municipal park in Minnesota. I bet you didn't know that. You know how I bet you didn't know that? Because I didn't know it either. And I'm not saying I know a lot, but I did not know that before we went to Ramsey Park to visit the Ramsey Falls. Hey, that's Nick out there walking around on the rock. You're going to see Nick around quite a bit in these things. He was of a very, very large help during this entire process, and still is. From time to time, I call him Crazy Nick, because some of the climbing around he did was a little on the crazy side. But he was also extremely helpful in all this, because at the time, a little known side fact, at the time that we did all of this, the hiking around, the video recording of it, etc., for this documentary, I was in the process of still recovering from brain surgery. So my mobility was somewhat limited, and I was in a lot of pain the whole time. And Nick, having gone through traumatic brain injury and multiple other things, etc., he was in pain much of the time as well. So, hey, you still get out there and you do things. And this is one of the things that we decided to do. But anyway, Ramsey Park. It's the largest municipal park in Minnesota. It's pretty impressive. It's known, it's got a nickname, as the Little Yellowstone of Minnesota. It's free to visit and open all year round. 365 days a year. That's all of them in a year. Not one day is excluded in that year, which means you can visit the park any day during any year. It includes a zoo, a campground, picnic areas, playgrounds, and scenic overlooks. I did not know that it included a zoo. I'm getting the feeling that Nick and I probably belong in the zoo rather than outside of it from time to time. But alas, we are here for the waterfalls. Ramsey Park has miles of hiking trails, and many of them are paved. It also has, for the anglers in the crowd, a DNR trout stream. I have eaten trout in my life. They are good. And Ramsey Park also has many historic landmarks scattered throughout the park. We did not visit all of them. We were interested in Ramsey Falls, and Ramsey Falls alone. There are many events that the park hosts throughout the year. A lot of community events, festivals, and quite a bit of summer activities. But in the spring, the park is known for hosting the Celebrate Redwood Falls Night Falls event. And the trails are decorated with thousands of lights, and people are able to go out night walking, etc. Not talking about those vampires. No, there's no vampires in Redwood Falls. No one's going to sparkle excessively. But, little did you know, there is a sign at Ramsey Park that says, "No gingers allowed." See, back in 1972, a few redheaded folk were visiting the park during the summer, and they ended up enjoying the place so much, they never left. The after effects of this visit are felt in the local community today, where approximately 1/3 of the population are see-through. A large portion of the people living near Ramsey Falls are so pale that you cannot even see them in daylight hours. Since then, gingers have been banned from visiting, even those who have been born there. Just kidding. Everyone knows their lives would be far less interesting if it were not for redheaded folk. And by the way, just like that, it's wintertime. Back to gingers for a moment. Think of all the jokes we'd be missing if they weren't around. They are the reason hide and seek can be played in the daytime. I would have won that last game of hide and seek in the daytime if it hadn't been for Thorsten Jacobson O'Malley and his genetic advantages. Once again, I'm just kidding. This documentary is not about ethnic origins. It is about the beauty of Minnesota and the waterfalls held within the state and sharing those with everyone. Although, as a cultural note, being redheaded and being from Minnesota can often be synonymous. I digress. Back to the beauty of Ramsey Falls. As you can hear, it was a bit windy on the day that we were out here filming the winter scene. I've always been really impressed by the difference between the quiet stillness in the wintertime compared to the running water during the summertime. It is so peaceful. As a simple side note too, after Nick and I did this, it actually was somewhat of a, more than somewhat, it was a bit of a life-changing event, activity, etc., whatever you'd want to call it. It helps set a lot of things in perspective, just to be outside in nature that much. And on that, as far as the initial idea, I was asking around for ideas, considering that I had already been involved in film for a while. But for a particular project, for the purpose of this, which will be shown at the end of it, at the end of the entire series. But this idea for the Waterfalls of Minnesota comes from a person that I have great admiration and respect for, and his name is John Beckman. So this whole idea, the inspiration for it, came from that fellow. So if you ever run across a Finnish man named John Beckman, say thanks, because this would not have happened had it not been for him. And if you ever run into a fellow named Nicholas Ron, or Crazy Nick, you'll see him throughout this series. Say hi to Nick. And that closes out our third waterfall in the series. Ramsey Falls. It was very cold on this day as well. But that was the point. Wait until we got to the coldest part of the year, and that we knew we'd be able to get the most impressive ice structures that way. It's pretty neat. You can see the water flowing behind the ice. As a small, interesting note or something to observe, if a person were to replay this in a faster speed, this particular scene cut, you can actually see the shadows move across the falls, because daylight, we lose it real fast this time of year.
Say what?
Good idea. Nick was saying something. I couldn't hear what he had said on the replay. But anyway, we will move on now from Ramsey Falls to the next section, which is going to be a bit further north and over to the east. So stick around for part 4.